Warzone 2.0 is finally here, and so today on Warzone Loadout, we're going to be breaking down the top 10 best loadouts that are going to dominate the meta from day one. We're going to be covering what we believe to be the best long and short range builds, as well as a sniper and sniper support option, so you can cover whatever playstyle you guys want to try out. All of these builds have been finely crafted over the last 2 weeks from extensive testing in the larger game modes of the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, like Invasion and Ground War, so you can be sure that everything we're covering today is going to be as accurate as possible. So let's kick this list off with the RPK in the long range category. This is what we believe is going to be the best gun for long range. It has the power of an LMG, but because it doesn't have that belt-fed magazine like some of the other LMG options, it still maintains a decent amount of mobility and just feels like a very, very strong assault rifle. For the first attachment, it's awesome to see the VLK 4.0 optic in Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2. We are very, very used to the VLK optic as Warzone players, so we're going to feel right at home using this. In terms of tuning this up, you want to make sure you're maxing out the ADS speed and bringing the eye position slightly further away. Minus 0.3 works well on the long range options, and it lowers that visual recoil as well. For the muzzle, we're sticking with the Warzone tradition of a suppressor, specifically the Polar Fire S on the RPK. It gives us that sound suppression to stay off the map, as well as bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil smoothness, all things that are really important for a long range build. For the tuning on that, we're going to be maxing out our recoil smoothness and bullet velocity for our long range. In the underbarrel slot, we've gone for the VX Pineapple. After all our testing, this appears to be the best underbarrel for recoil control at the moment in the game. The hip fire accuracy and hip recoil control is also a nice addition in case enemies push you and you have to shoot with this weapon from the hip and you can't change to your secondary quick enough. For the tuning on this, you simply want to max the ADS speed. We're then going for the heavy support stock. This gives us a nice amount of recoil control as well as aiming stability, so we're not swaying too much as we're trying to track down enemies. And for the tuning on that, we want to be maxing out ADS speed and aiming idle stability. And finally on the RPK, we've got the Demo X2 grip. This once again adds even more recoil control, making this thing a real beam at long range. And the tuning for that, we've got maxed out ADS speed and aiming idle stability. Moving swiftly on to our second long-range option, we've got the Lachmann 5.56. Now, this is a slightly less hard-hitting gun, but it is probably the best AR at the moment for Warzone 2. It's also incredibly easy to use. It shoots really straight, and it feels kind of like the Grau or the Kilo from Warzone 1. We're once again going with that VLK4 optic. We're going to have that on most of our long-range guns, and the tuning is, as we had it before, maxed out ADS speed and that minus 0.3 eye position. Muzzle is going to be the Harbinger D20. This is going to be the best muzzle overall for sound suppression on our ARs, and for the tuning on that, we are going to be maxing out our bullet velocity and recoil smoothness. We're then chucking on the Lachmann Wrap Barrel. It is an AR, and so we need this barrel attachment in order to gain that extra bullet velocity and damage range and everything we want for our long-range build. And for the tuning on that, we are maxing out our recoil steadiness and damage range. Then once again, we've got the VX Pineapple. I said we would have this on many guns throughout this video, so I'm not going to go through all of the benefits of this every single time. Main thing is the tuning is going to be the same as before. We're just maxing out the ADS speed. And lastly, because this is Warzone, we are going to be adding on a bigger mag to this AR. You've got the choice between a 40 and a 60 round mag, which is going to be pretty much personal preference. Obviously, the 60 round mag gives you more bullets, but it does make you less mobile, and it can be considered a little bit overkill. It's honestly up to you guys. If you're playing quads, you might want the 60 round. If not, the 40 round will probably do just fine. Our third long-range option and the second LMG on this list is going to be the HCR 56. It's a really close call between this and the RPK, and it's going to be a little bit of kind of personal preference as to which one you prefer. We believe the RPK is better, but you might get better results out of this from your own playstyle. Let's cover off the common attachments we've already discussed in the past. We've got the VLK4 optic with the tuning as we've had it already from the previous builds. And the same thing goes for the VX Pineapple with the tuning, once again matching those other builds. Let's now talk about the barrel, the Bruin Tarraco 686mm. This is a barrel that's unique because it actually comes with sound suppression built in, meaning we don't need a muzzle. As well as that, we also get that increased recoil control and bullet velocity, so it is a no-brainer to add to our HCR. For the tuning on this, we want to max out our recoil steadiness and our damage range. Then for the comb, you want the Bruin TS30 comb, giving extra aiming stability and recoil steadiness overall, making this gun just feel a lot straighter shooting. And tuning on this, you want the recoil stabilization and ADS speed maxed. Lastly, the Stip 40 rear grip gives you even more recoil control. And then for the tuning on that, we want to max out the ADS speed, but leave the slider at the bottom in neutral because we want sprint to fire speed and aiming idle stability. We definitely don't want to lose either of those. Now, if you like the HCR, but you're not a massive fan of LMGs and how they feel, and you actually just prefer ARs, then the STB-556 is going to be your best bet. This is very, very similar to the HCR, except it's a little bit more snappy with a little bit less damage. Once again, it's the VLK4 optic tuned up as we've done it before, along with the VX Pineapple also tuned as we have before. Because it's on the same platform as the HCR, we once again have that Bruin Taraco, which gives us the sound suppression built in, so no-brainer. And we're going to tune it up exactly the same, maxing out our recoil steadiness and damage range. Now here's where the STB attachments differ from the HCR attachments. We're starting off with a stock, the Bruin HCR 56 stock, which basically just increases recoil control. And then to tune up this stock, because it does take away some of our mobility, we add back in max ADS speed and aiming idle stability. And then finally for the STB, it is an AR, so we need that bigger mag. The largest one we can have is this 42 round mag, so that is a no-brainer to chuck on here. Our last long-range option is going to be the M4. Oh, reliable. The M4 is always a good option in every single Call of Duty game that releases, and in Warzone 2, there is no difference. Once again, sounding like a broken record here, but you want the VLK4 optic tuned up for ADS speed with that slightly far eye position, and the VX Pineapple, again, for that recoil control and the hipfire accuracy as well, tuned up with max ADS speed. For the muzzle, we're going back to the Harbinger D20 suppressor that we had on the Lachmann. As I said, this is the best option for most ARs, giving that sound suppression, bullet velocity, damage range, all of that great stuff that we need for our long-range builds. And for tuning on it, we need to max our recoil smoothness and our bullet velocity. The high tower barrel is the best option for our long-range M4, giving bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, as well as a bit of needed hipfire accuracy in those situations where it might come in handy. And then we can tune that up for increased recoil steadiness and damage range, making this thing an absolute powerhouse of range. And then lastly, we're increasing that mag size as usual. We've got a 45 and a 60 round mag option, kind of similar to the Lachmann. It's going to be personal preference. 60 round mag's going to make you slower, so it's up to you. So those are our 5 recommendations for the long range builds. Let's now move on to the close range meta. The best all-round SMG on day one is going to be the Lachmann sub, or the MP5. Similar to the M4, the MP5 is just always a good gun in every COD game, so it's no surprise to anyone that this is going to be on this list. We're starting off with the FTAC Castle Comp muzzle, which does limit our mobility, which might be a surprise, but it gives incredible improvements to horizontal and vertical recoil control. In Warzone 2, there is so much more recoil on every gun, especially SMGs, so not running attachments like this on this close-range weapons is going to really limit your ability to shoot at people who are even just over 2 feet away from you. So this is a must-have in order to actually make this gun usable. We're going to tune up that muzzle for increased ADS speed to ensure we're getting back some of that mobility, and then leave the bottom slider at neutral. The barrel of choice is going to be the FTAC M sub 12-inch. This is going to increase our bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil control. Once again, very, very necessary in Warzone 2 in order to compete. Remember, we are not playing Rebirth Island. We are playing the large map that is Al Mazrah, so you need to have those damage range attachments on SMGs to make them feel as good as possible. For the tuning there, we are going to be maxing out recoil steadiness and damage range. We're then going to crank that mobility back up on the Lachmann sub with the LM Stockless mod stock. This is a stock that gives you some nice ADS speed, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, and hip fire control. These are all things that all of us aggressive demons are going to love. There's no tuning available in the stock, so then we're going to move on to the Lachmann TCG10 rear grip. This is going to buff our recoil control for no cons in the mobility department, so it is a no-brainer to put this on and just make this gun more reliable at slightly longer ranges. We then tune it up to give us ADS speed and aiming idle stability. Chuck on the 40 or the 50 round mag, whichever suits your playstyle, and you'll be ready to go with the Lachmann sub. Now, for those of you who just want to play with brainless aggression, the Vaznev 9K is probably the best option in the game at the moment. We're still going to be starting off with the FTAC Castle Comp. I've already sung its praises and said that it is incredible for helping out with the recoil control and actually making the gun usable at slightly longer ranges. But don't worry, we're going to be bringing back that mobility later on. For this gun, we're tuning up the Castle Comp for max ADS speed. For the barrel, we're going to be taking the CAS-1 381mm barrel. This, at the moment, in the build I'm playing, does not have any stats shown against it. However, from our testing, it appears to be pretty similar to the barrel we had on the MP5, so overall helping us with a little bit more range, and that lines up with the line it says up here, where it says the long barrel increases precision for operators who engage from mid-range. It just makes this gun overall more reliable, even though we are building it as aggressive as possible. We're then going to tune up the barrel with increased recoil steadiness steadiness, and damage range. The stock is going to be the Otrazat stock, giving us aim walking speed and sprint speed, really helping us with strafing and outplaying opponents. And then we tune that up for even more ADS speed and aim walking speed. This makes this gun's strafe speeds insane. The True Tac grip is the quintessential grip for aggressive playstyles with sprint to fire speed and ADS speed as its pros. So that's what we're chucking on here. And for tuning, we're getting even more ADS speed and sprint to fire speed. This gun becomes absolutely amazing for those demon players who want that aggressiveness. And then to round out the Vaznev, we are chucking on the 45 round mag. It's the only option we have, but it's necessary to ensure we can actually wipe out more than a couple of players. The last close range SMG option today is a slightly different one and a personal favorite of mine, and that is the Minibak. This is very similar to the Bison or the Bullfrog from previous CODs that have been in Warzone, and the advantage of using this gun is that we do not need a larger magazine size. This already comes with a very large magazine for an SMG, and that opens us up to actually add on another attachment. So once again, as for the other two SMGs we've had, we're using the FTAC Castle Comp for the improved recoil, and we're tuning that up for increased ADS speed. Moving on to the BAK 9279 barrel, this gives damage range, increased hipfire accuracy and bullet velocity, and we tune that up to have recoil steadiness and damage range at their max values. So as I mentioned, we don't need a magazine on this gun, so instead we can chuck on a laser, where we're going to go for the FSS Ole V laser. This gives us some really important stats that SMGs are going to love: ADS speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. There's no tuning available on the laser, so we'll move to the Otrazat stock, same as we had for the Vaznev, giving us aim walking speed and sprint speed, overall boosting that mobility of the gun. And the tuning is going to be maxed ADS speed and aiming idle stability. And lastly, the True Tac grip, once again to buff our mobility with sprint to fire speed and ADS speed, perfect for the SMG. And the tuning on that is going to be ADS speed and sprint to fire speed maxed out. Now, for all of you sniper fans out there, do not worry, we have not left you guys out. The best sniper option in the game at the moment is the MCPR 300. We're starting off with a suppressor on the muzzle. It's the FTAC Reaper, giving us all of the standard things we expect from a Warzone suppressor: improved range, improved bullet velocity, and that sound suppression that is necessary for a long-range gun. And then we tune that up with increased ADS speed and bullet velocity. For the barrel, we're going for the 22-inch OMX 456, which pushes the bullet velocity and damage range even further. These are two of the most important stats that we need for a sniper to be able to land those one shots. To tune that barrel up, we are going to max out our aim walking speed for a little bit of extra strafing potential while you're scoped, and we're not going to touch this bottom slider because damage range and ADS speed are both really important. We're going to be using the FSS Ole V laser, the same thing we had on the Minibak earlier, as it gives us the ADS speed and sprint to fire speed to allow us to still play fairly aggressive with this weapon. There's no tuning available on the laser still, so we'll move on to the Cronin Cheetah grip for our rear grip. This gives even more sprint to fire speed and ADS speed, allowing us to actually challenge enemies with a little bit more of a snappy aim. To tune that up, we are going to be maxing ADS speed and then leave the bottom slider at neutral. And finally, we've got the secret sauce attachment for the snipers in this game. It's going to be the .300 mag high velocity ammunition. This simply buffs the bullet velocity, meaning that we don't need to lead our shots anywhere near as much. The best thing about this is we can tune this up and give it extra damage range, so the damage range we lose is pretty much wiped out by this tuning, and then we can also push the bullet velocity even further, so max both of those out. Our favorite sniper support build to pair with the sniper in Warzone 2 is going to be the Kastov 74U. This is a gun which is absolutely terrorizing multiplayer at the moment because it draws a nice fine line between a long-range AR and a close-range SMG, and with this build, it fits really nicely as a sniper support in our loadout. Begin with the Echoless 80 muzzle. This is the best muzzle option we have here in terms of keeping a little bit more mobile than some of the other suppressors that are on offer. And we're then going to tune that up for increased recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. Chuck on the short tack 330mm barrel for increased recoil control, hip fire recoil control, and bullet velocity. And for the tuning on that, max out the recoil steadiness and the damage range. We then want a short range optic on this gun as we're running as a sniper support. The Cronin Mini Red Dot is probably one of the best and easiest options you can get. There are some other ones which some people would recommend, things like the Cronin Mini Pro, so pick your preference. The main thing is that we tune this up to have maxed ADS speed, and then we bring our eye position out to about minus 0.73. On these 1x optics, this looks a lot better, pulling it out a little bit further than we did for our VLK 4x scopes earlier. The FSS shark fin is a nice little underbarrel to chuck on this gun, which has absolutely no cons. It only gives us a nice little pro of the aiming idle stability. And then it becomes even better because we can tune it up for increased recoil stabilization and aiming idle stability. And we're rounding out the Kastov 74U sniper support with an increased mag of 45 rounds. So there we go, guys. They are the top 10 meta loadouts for Warzone 2.0 from day one. If you have enjoyed this video, then please be sure to leave a like below, as well as a comment. Get the conversation going on what you guys find are your favorite weapons. It might be one from this list. It might be one that you found yourselves. It might be a loadout that we can cover in the future on this channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more awesome Warzone meta loadouts, as well as news coming in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you guys next time.